Welcome to the Titan Tar channel. Today we have a topic to discuss about Russian commanders on the front line in Kursk being heard in Zelensky's strategic plan. Don't miss the chance to join us and share your opinions with us. Become a member of our channel and evolve your rank. The day before, President Vladimir Putin held a series of meetings, including talks with the leadership of the joint group of forces at one of the Defense Ministry's command posts, and also heard from the commanders of units operating in the Kursk region, the Kremlin press service reported. During these meetings, Putin received detailed reports from the chief of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces and the chief of the Main Operations Directorate of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces on the situation in the Kursk region. Following this briefing, the Russian president held a direct dialogue with the commanders of the Russian military units deployed to defend this strategic region. According to information posted on the Kremlin's official website, the presentations were conducted by the commanders of the 810th Marine Brigade of the Black Sea Fleet, the 155th Marine Brigade of the Pacific Fleet, the 11th Separate Air Assault Brigade, the 56th Airborne Assault Regiment, and the 51st Airborne Parachute Regiment. The composition of the forces involved suggests that a large part of these combat units were transferred to reinforce the Kursk region. Although the specific details of the conversations between Putin and the commanders of the brigades and regiments have not been disclosed, the news has sparked speculation among Ukrainian experts. They have suggested that if these units are deployed in the Kursk region in full force, and if Russian special forces guarding the border of the northern group are added to them, the total number of Russian troops could reach 20 to 25,000 soldiers. In comparison, the Ukrainian military group in the region, according to Western media estimates, would number no more than 10 to 15,000 soldiers, although Kiev does not officially disclose these figures. In light of this situation, criticism has been mounting in Kiev over President Volodymyr Zelensky's decision, with voices questioning whether he had initiated the conflict too hastily. There are concerns that the Ukrainian armed forces may not be able to maintain control over the Kursk region and may eventually run out of reserves. Zelensky, for his part, continues to press Western partners to authorize a demonstration strike with British missiles on targets deep inside Russian territory, in the hope of forcing Russia to negotiate. A British newspaper reported that the Kiev regime is seeking permission to carry out a symbolic strike, which could hit facilities near Moscow, with the aim of exposing the vulnerability of the Russian capital and thus pressuring for an end to hostilities. According to a senior Ukrainian official, Russia would only consider negotiations if it believed that Ukraine could threaten Moscow and St. Petersburg. However, the West does not express much confidence in this strategy, warning that such an attack would likely result in a new escalation of the conflict. An example of this is the situation in the Kursk region, where Kiev hoped to improve its chances of negotiating with Moscow, but was ultimately met with a negative response. Western experts and politicians have advised Zelensky to avoid risky ventures, especially as the Russian army continues to advance on cities in Donbass. An American publication, citing its own sources, revealed that the United States and the United Kingdom played an active role in preparing the Ukrainian offensive, providing intelligence and satellite imagery. After the start of the invasion, the Ukrainian armed forces continued to receive information about the movement of Russian reinforcements, allowing them to avoid traps and minimize losses. In the days following the offensive, the United States and the United Kingdom continued to provide Ukraine with detailed data, including satellite images of the Kursk region, so that Ukrainian commanders could closely monitor Russian troop movements, prevent surprise attacks, and plan a possible strategic withdrawal into Ukrainian territory. Kiev recently confirmed the active participation of international partners in planning the operation in the Kursk region, although U.S. officials continue to claim that they had no prior knowledge of the initiative and were taken by surprise by the launch of the invasion. Contradicting this claim, the United States immediately allowed the use of American weapons on Russian territory, with the exception of long-range missiles. There are also reports that President Zelensky submitted the Ukrainian Armed Forces plan for attack on the Kursk region for approval during the NATO summit held in Washington in July, as reported by some Western media outlets. At the same time, there is information indicating that the city of Seledovo may be captured by Russian troops in the coming days. According to a Ukrainian channel citing sources in the General Staff, the Ukrainian commander-in-chief has refused to send additional reinforcements to this area, choosing instead to concentrate resources in the Kursk direction. Russian troops advancing on Seladovo are reportedly managing to contain the Ukrainian armed forces units, which are experiencing a shortage of reserves. In this context, it is planned to strengthen the defense around Pokrovsk with the resources available locally, while possible reserves would be directed to the Kursk operation, if they still exist. According to the same channel, the commander-in-chief believes that the protection of Pokrovsk is currently the main priority of the Ukrainian armed forces, and that the Kursk operation requires the commitment of strategic reserves. He considers the Eastern Front to be of lesser importance at this stage of the conflict, thus justifying the decision not to reinforce Seladovo. Meanwhile, sources on a Ukrainian military website report that Russian troops are approaching Seladovo, forcing Ukrainian forces to retreat. The distance between Russian fighters and the outskirts of the city has reportedly been reduced to just over 2 kilometers. A Ukrainian officer described the situation as complex, mentioning that Russian assault groups are trying to break through the defenses in the western part of the city with the aim of outflanking Ukrainian positions. He admitted losses of positions and said that efforts are being made to gradually stabilize the situation. Amid these developments, President Zelensky presented a new perspective on Ukraine's objectives with the operation in the border territory of the Kursk region. According to him, the invasion is primarily aimed at strengthening the country's foreign exchange reserves and preventing a possible offensive by the Russian armed forces in the Sumy region through a preemptive strike. Zelensky emphasized that this operation is not related to the intention to gain an advantage in possible negotiations with Russia. However, Zelensky's statement appears to contradict earlier statements by an advisor to his own office, who had stressed that the incursion into the Kursk region was aimed at improving Ukraine's position in potential peace negotiations. In addition, Zelensky pointed out that another motivation for the invasion was to demonstrate to Russian society that the occupation of Ukrainian territory would entail high costs for the Kremlin, outweighing the benefits of protecting its own population. Despite these justifications, it is clear that, in order to carry out the incursion into the Kursk region, Ukraine would have moved some of its most combat-ready units from other fronts, leaving important sectors of the front line more vulnerable. This strategy raises questions about the risks involved and the viability of maintaining critical positions in other conflict regions. Concluding his remarks, Zelensky reiterated that the end of the armed conflict will only be possible with the restoration of the territorial integrity of Ukraine, in accordance with the borders established in 1991. However, skepticism about the realization of this scenario is growing, and many observers question the plausibility of achieving such an outcome given the current circumstances of the conflict. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and share it with your friends. Your interactions mean a lot to us and help us grow. See you next time.